In this video, we'll talk about a few of the common cybersecurity threats that we need to protect against. And so when we're doing penetration testing or ethical hacking, these are the threats that we're looking to eliminate. And the first threat on the list is malware. Now, malware just stands for malicious software. And usually malware is delivered through email attachments or malicious websites. And once it's installed, it can execute different harmful activities like stealing data or encrypting your files or monitoring user activity or giving remote control over a system. And there's all different types of malware. There's viruses, which are programs that attach to files and spread to other files. So for example, a virus could infect a user's email and then send copies of itself to other contacts that the user has. Now that's a virus. A worm replicates on its own. A worm does not require any user interaction. And one of the most infamous worms was the I love you worm, which spread through email back in around the year 2000, affecting millions of computers worldwide. There are also Trojans, and Trojans, much like the Trojan horse, are designed as legitimate software in order to trick users into installing it. And a good example of a Trojan would be some kind of application like a banking app that looks real, but actually is just there to steal your login information. And then finally, we have ransomware. Ransomware will encrypt your data, and they will demand a ransom in order to restore access. And this can be one of the most expensive and damaging types of malware. So one of the things we're looking to protect against, of course, is malware. We also need to protect against phishing attacks. And phishing attacks attempt to trick users into revealing sensitive information. Things like their usernames, their passwords, their credit card numbers. Now, when we're talking about usernames and passwords, just bear in mind, if we were to use multi-factor authentication, these attacks become much less effective. But that's what a phishing attack is. So for example, with a phishing attack, an attacker will send an email or a message that looks legitimate. And that's the most common type of phishing attack, where an attacker sends a fraudulent email. So maybe the email looks like it's from your bank, and it asks you to click on a link to verify your account information. And when you click on it, it asks for your username or account number or something like that. That's email phishing. And that's the most common type of phishing. It's a widespread attack against many people, whereas spear phishing is much more targeted to a specific person or a specific organization. So for example, let's say you get an email that looks like it's from your boss and it's requesting proprietary information. That's spear phishing, something that's targeted to that one individual. And then we've also got smishing and vishing. So these are phishing attacks that are conducted either via text message, and that's smishing, or via a voice call, a regular telephone call. That's vishing. So for example, you could get a text message claiming to be from some delivery service like UPS or FedEx. And within the text message, it has a link to track your package. And when you click on that link, some kind of malware is installed. Another important type of attack that we need to defend against, that we need to prepare for with penetration tests, is a distributed denial of service attack. And the goal of this attack is just to bring service down, to take your website down by overwhelming it with a flood of traffic. They will take over thousands of computers and use all of those computers to overwhelm your website with a massive amount of traffic, making it so that the real users can't reach your website. And that's what we call a volume-based attack. So maybe we have thousands of systems sending UDP packets, and all they're trying to do is completely consume all of your network bandwidth. That's a volume-based attack, and that's the most common type of distributed denial of service attack. There are also protocol attacks that exploit weaknesses in different protocols, like, for example, TCP. There's something called a SYN flood attack that will exploit the TCP handshake process. So there's all these different attacks that could potentially be utilized to take your service down. And then there's application layer attacks. These target specific applications or services, like, for example, HTTP, sending repeated requests to a web server and exhausting the CPU or the memory of that web server. That would be an application attack. And then finally, the last type of threat that I want to talk about is an insider threat. And these can be the most damaging. These come from individuals within an organization, people like employees or contractors or business partners who have a higher level of access to our systems. These can be intentional or unintentional. So, for example, we may have a malicious insider. Maybe we have a disgruntled employee who steals a bunch of data in order to sell it. So these malicious insiders are people who intentionally harm the organization for either personal gain or for revenge. This could be people selling trade secrets or just trying to do some sort of harm because maybe they're mad at us. But we've also got negligent insiders, and these people can be just as dangerous as the malicious insiders. These are people who unintentionally cause harm by ignoring our security policies. This is something we need to address with penetration testing. So, for example, an employee who accidentally clicks on a phishing link in an email and they compromise the company's network, or an employee who sees a USB drive in the parking lot and picks it up, brings it into work, and plugs it into their computer. Those are negligent insiders, and like I said, they can be just as damaging as somebody who is malicious. Or we could have compromised insiders. These are employees whose accounts have been taken over by some sort of external hacker. A hacker gets access to an employee's account and uses it to steal sensitive data, for example. So these are the different types of attacks that we need to address with ethical hacking and with penetration testing. We're trying to find these weaknesses and eliminate them to make it harder for the bad guys.